My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
This is the entity that is indeed stalking, engaging in what is coming in alignment to where I'm located in Stalking and Commercial Plain. This is the entity that does so while I'm at the Ontario Town Square, while I am across the street at the ARCO. Then they're flying and getting in alignment to my person over there. They're coming in alignment to where I'm located, very precise. This is stalker conduct. This is also stalking because there are no takeoffs that include a U-turn back toward the airport after taking off. There's no intended destination when you're engaging in that. There is also no sun that rises and sets on Euclid Avenue anywhere in the country or in the world or in the galaxy. The entity is engaging in what is stalking in the specific environment where the fake sun rises and where I've documented the fake sunset. This is Chevron. This is ARCO. This is at the facilitating venue, the RAYBON mortgage at 537 North Euclid Avenue, where I'm documenting the fake sun over the top of my head in the middle of the afternoon, where they're monitoring me while I'm inside of this building in the middle of the afternoon on Sundays, where the entity has the fake sun on this street from sunrise until sunset. They are stalking in commercial planes, and they are stalking on the roads and the highways. They are demons that you also know are stalking, while I'm capturing during the day, stalking with impossible light, and I'm capturing at night, stalking with impossible light. They are all stalking with light right now, and this is state action. The Ontario International Board, the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario Police Department are going to be prosecuted as terrorists. This is mental illness, and this is the Nephilim. This is P.O.C. It's 7:02 a.m. Alrighty, that is P.O.C. This is maintaining surveillance, and what you're paying attention to is the progression. Okay, what I'm at the bus stop, flying right here. This is stalking with light. I already got their license plates. Those are demons, and they're stalking with Starbucks. You already know that. Already prosecuted the fake sun rising and setting. Demons stalking with light. Doing so with the government that's progressing north down the street where the fake sun is rising. This is engineer light on UNICARE. That's not sunlight. And they're stalking with the government. 8YAP982, co-conspirator of murder and also a demon-possessed person. That's the Nephilim. P.O.C. The government, demons acting in concert with the people of the state, demons in furtherance of murder, demons stalking with light. That's the entity that's doing so. P.O.C.
Alrighty, Steve Jones is being documented engaging in gang stalking, and Allied Universal is engaging in surveillance with the City of Ontario. The demons that are stalking in the parking lot, you'll see the images. This is surveillance, and Allied Universal, that is Steve Jones, who's a domestic terrorist. The African Americans that are operating the Allied Universal vehicles, doing so while maintaining criminal presence in the path with the government that is stalking where the fake sun rises and sets. Doing so while the entity is stalking as I'm coming from 537 North Euclid Avenue to the intersection where the entity is entertaining the fake sunrise. Remember, when I stay at F Street in Euclid, that's where the fake sun rises at that same BETHEL congregation, RAYBON mortgage intersection. As I come to E Street in Euclid, that's where the fake sun rises. You can see the engineer light on the building of UNICARE Community Health Center. The fake sun is over the top of my head at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the same gang stalking City of Ontario is maintaining serial flight Ontario International Airport. The demon possessed, including Steve Jones, the corrupt company that's engaged in domestic terrorism in the United States, is what you need to know. And it's going to be the prosecution of a gang stalking company that's conspiring murder and engaging in what is conspicuous stalking and furtherance of murder with the City of Ontario under the fake sun, and aiding in what is surveillance with the entity that's maintaining serial flight using both commercial planes. I documented that. And as I walk north, those planes progress north. License plate 9LVR315, Allied Universal. The use of any licensure, they're engaged in criminal monitoring. So that license, PPO14417, they are not engaged in private security. They're engaged in criminal surveillance, and the pattern of conduct supersedes that, and that is the loss of such licensure. And Steve Jones' position as actually a domestic terrorist leader is thereby exposed. That's the same thing with the gang stalking companies such as Chevron, the gang stalking companies such as ARCO, where the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, doing so with the government that is engaging in what is maintaining aerial surveillance while their mental illness is also exhibited. License EG 64B32 MIAB1QT BXBV294 9LVN926. This is gang stalking Steve Jones, Allied Universal. Let me show you the fake sun. You already know that it's still here at 10 o'clock, not 7LUJ280. Allied Universal is engaging what is participating in gang stalking, okay? They're engaging in that while they also are keeping the evidence under surveillance. So this entity that's gang stalking is keeping the evidence of them gang stalking under surveillance. That is Steve Jones intentionally engaging in that. Very foolish, just like being caught intentionally wanting to be captured gang stalking after you are looking at the evidence of it, which is damning. That's what the entity is engaging in because they're keeping all the evidence under surveillance. That is Steve Jones openly expressing
expressing the fact that he's an enemy of this country and the corrupt company that he has poses a threat to this country while keeping American citizens under surveillance. It's not a security company. 9PYW592. Again, Allied Universal 9LVN 926 and 14741E4. They're doing so under the fake sun. The fake sun is here at 6:45 p.m. That's letting you know what Steve Jones is actually engaged in, and doing so with the demons that are engaging in mentally ill behavior, stalking with commercial planes at the location where I'm at, just like they are at the bus stop, just like they are as I'm walking down any street, as I'm at the Ontario Town Square. This is where the fake sun is rising, which is where the entity is maintaining aerial flight. Okay, the entity is engaging with is gang stalking with immigrants. Immigrants in the city of Ontario, every single last one of them are being deported. 9ITH520. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. and doing so while the entity is maintaining that pattern of conduct. This is what I'm speaking to on my podcast right now. This is where the entity is maintaining its flight, making a U-turn, flying up to be in relevant position with where I'm positioned, and then making a U-turn. That has nothing to do with planes that are going to specific destinations that passengers are paying for. This is relevant to stalking in the path. This is the entity that's flying over Sarah's Regis Group. You're going to prosecute. That's the identification of a defendant, a co-defendant. The entity is doing so where they're all driving an engineer light. The entity is doing so where I am progressing south down the street. They were doing that over the RAYBON mortgage while I was over there. This is where the entity is stalking, and this is where the entity has the same sense. Where Steve Jones, shown to be a domestic terrorist leader, gang stalking, just like Chevron. This is where the entity has the fake sun, and you know that it's still here at 10 o'clock. It's still here at 12 o'clock. It's still here at 6:45 p.m. That's the government. Gang stalking with commercial planes, gang stalking with companies like Allied Universal, and this is mental illness. They're engaging in surveillance. That's light activity, relevant positioning, under a fake sun that remains stationary as a matter of documentation. Doing so with those that are of any immigrant status because they're going to be deported. The airport is going to be shut down, and this is all in furtherance of murder, and this is massive. While you see them driving around in impulsive light activity because it's not the sun, this is mental illness. And mental illness is the same conduct that is exhibited by those that representing companies that are engaging in this criminal pattern of conduct. All right, I'm capturing video right now. It is currently 7:22 a.m. This is Allied Universal, again, the gang stalking company that are engaging in what is the commercial means of criminal surveillance. That's what the city of Ontario, the state of California has been engaged in for years. I'm documenting Amazon Prime gang stalking. I'm documenting Starbucks gang stalking. I'm documenting Uber gang stalking, Lyft gang stalking. There is no exception, as I've shown the pattern of conduct, and they all engage in that same pattern of stalking with the possible light. They're doing so with the government that maintains the evidence of targeting in that specific environment where the entity is stalking by planes and helicopters. And this is the prosecution of Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams, domestic terrorist leaders who are mentally ill, and they're also engaged in criminal surveillance and furtherance of my murder. They've conspired my murder, and they do so with license 8UQJ910, who is engaged in what is maintaining criminal presence in the path. And the demons are engaged in what is stalking on an ongoing serial basis. That's another plane. I captured video right now. 7:23 a.m. is the current time. And the moment that I stop recording, another flight, and it doesn't make a U-turn, it continues flying what is west over this ARCO where I'm at 434 North Euclid Avenue, a heavily documented facilitating venue. And the entity's engaging in what is migrating with regard to making these U-turns in alignment, stalking, and engaged in what is maintaining flight. The entity's engaging in that with regard to where I'm positioned. They're doing so maintaining presence on the south side of my person. As I go north, they remain on the south side of my person, progressing north, stalking. As I go south down the street, they remain on the south side of my person, progressing south. They engage in what is flying west until they get in alignment with my person. They turn and make a U-turn. That's the demonic pacing, going back and forth with regard to relevant positioning to where I am, regardless, on whatever side of the street I'm on. That's what the entity is doing right now, while it's aware that I'm capturing video. For whatever reason, the entities, again, this is the entity that is not intelligent, but they surmise in their mind that it looks better on camera. It doesn't. For them to be seen making a U-turn, flying in the opposite direction while they are stalking in the path under the fake sun in concert with the people of the state, as opposed to what you've already seen them doing hundreds and thousands of times, which is stalking, flying west over UNICARE Health Center, over the Starbucks, over E Street in Euclid, under the fake sun that's present at 7 in the morning, and it's here at 12:34 in the afternoon, 12:49 in the afternoon, 6:45 in the evening. That's the entity that's engaging in that, however, and they're engaging in what is maintaining ongoing serial flight. This is another one at 7:25 a.m. This is P.O.C. This is nothing to do with the legitimate operation of the airport. The airport's engaged in domestic terrorism, and so is Steve Jones, Allied Universal, gang stalking terrorists that are engaged in this system of criminal surveillance. They're gang stalkers. And you need to know that they're demons. Okay, so when you have a company that's engaged in the demonic pattern of conduct, the owner, the shareholders, the employees, they're all demons. This is understanding and exposing public corruption. Steve Jones is not innocently the CEO of a company that's engaging in public corruption, unbeknownst to him, that he doesn't know that his employees are demons. He doesn't know that they're being documented. He doesn't know that they're sharing in the pattern of conduct for a term of years in Southern California. Yes, he does know. They're headquartered in California. California is a gang stalker. Okay, and so is Steve Jones. This is P.O.C. The entity's engaging in that with Allied Universal. Allied Universal is letting you know that everybody is gang stalking. Every company, every establishment, which represents the people of the state, those are third parties. They're not private citizens. They're not private properties. They're not private companies. And they're not going to be prosecuted, and they're not enjoying those constitutional provisions either. They're engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct that belongs to the public entity of which they share that status. 9NTJ292, I believe. I can't really see that. But you can scratch that license plate. But this is, again, 506 North Euclid Avenue, Chevron. 434 North Euclid Avenue, ARCO. Stalking with commercial planes. I'm going to upload those videos. You'll see them progressing as I walk south down Euclid Avenue. That plane activity progresses with me. That's stalking in the specific environment. 9TIY447. And Balbeer is indeed engaging with his ongoing criminal conduct with impunity. That same impunity exhibited by that psychopathic pacing with planes. That impunity that's exhibited by the public corruption of gang stalking customers. Every single aspect of that criminal pattern of conduct. The entity engaged in this under the guise of making money, okay, and you're running your business and they're gang stalking with you. You're going to be deported. This is deportation, and it is non-negotiable. In the same way that gang stalking terrorists that are hiding themselves as thinking that you're disguised as some police chief, you're not disguised as a police chief. Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams, Michael Moore, Dominic Choi, and the current domestic terrorist leader of the LAPD that Dominic Choi was holding the space for after Michael Moore retired from a position of terrorist, being a terrorist leader. They are obvious with regard to their position. They're not police chiefs. And my evidence makes that obvious for you to see with regard to what is public corruption, with regard to what is blindness, with regard to what is abuse and the exercise of authority that they don't actually have while they're maintaining a bully system of surveillance and masquerading as law enforcement. You are able to obviously clearly see that they're engaged in what is gang stalking. They're engaged in what is surveillance, targeting, not law enforcement, and they will be prosecuted as the terrorists that they are. And it is in plain view that they're terrorists. License 5UCR830. Again, the entities engaged in this pattern of conduct and all the ways in which the entity is targeting American citizens is going to be used against them. That same malice where you're gang stalking through a bunch of customers is going to be used against you with regard to your prosecution. You have a bunch of customers that are gang stalking where you live. But gang stalking where you are, for example, employed, like Starbucks, like the OVITT Family Community Library, like Chevron, ARCO, like any shopping mall. It doesn't matter what type of venue it is. The entities engage in what is making money while they are engaging in criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder. That's a RICO case. 6UEZ165. That's an elaborate, far-reaching RICO case against the government, against the companies. And I'm going to be clear. All the companies, that's a RICO case against Chevron, against Starbucks. It's actionable with regard to every single last one of them. But bigger picture is it's a prosecution of the U.S. government, all right? And it is a RICO case, an elaborate one, okay? Now, I want to be clear. The entities engaging in this, and they're doing so in furtherance of murder. They're doing so as a population who are exposed as demon-possessed. This is the Nephilim. The Nephilim that are here, and they've been here engaging in this means, this unspoken, this supposedly secret. It's not a secret. As I've shown you that it is obvious, but you're talking about what is the same corrupt government that has been defaming my character for years, intending to kill me before you were able to hear the truth. They did not know that wasn't going to work. So now you are in hindsight looking back at the evidence that I stated at the time. They're demons. They're stalking. This is intentional malicious conduct. They're doing so under the fake sun. That's not the sun, and this is all malicious and targeted with regard to me. The government that went to that far extent to engage in every iteration that I am publishing now on the internet. And it was the truth then, and you are now looking at it in hindsight with regard to mental illness. The entity that would engage in that, 77464L3. The entity that's stalking with impossible light. day and night. The entity that's stalking under things like a fake sun that wants to project mental illness on the targeted individual, and you're using a whole company structure to stalk one person, target one person. This is understanding how mental illness is actually that which is possessed by those that are seeking to falsely depict the character of the targeted individual. They are all mentally ill. Actually, they're psychopaths, and they're actually serial killers and sex offenders, and they enjoy engaging in what is targeting American citizens. This is the demon possessed. This is the wicked. This is the work of Satan. These are the minions that are gang stalking, and it's government action. It's state action. Okay, Steve Jones and Allied Universal, that's not a private company, and it's going to be prosecuted as a third party. Conspiring my murder by engaging in the pattern of conduct and doing so with impunity. It's already also established that not only are they gang stalking, they keep the evidence of them gang stalking, and they make a decision to engage in that pattern of conduct again. That's becoming a serial stalker. That's what the entity's engaging in, doing so as the airport, doing so as the police department, and they're going to be prosecuted as terrorists. And it's relevant to your federal case. Companies are going to be prosecuted as terrorists. They're going to be prosecuted as sex offenders. As what they are. That's what they're doing. They are stalking in the path, creating a means of light activity. They're engaged in the federal RICO case. Chevron is making money while Allied Universal, the company, again, and who's operating those companies' vehicles? Demons. And who's engaging in that pattern of conduct with regard to the population? Demons. All those demons do are step inside of buildings with logos on them, wear uniforms with logos on them, use vehicles with logos on them. It's the same demon-possessed population. Then you are going to prosecute that's nothing other than malice in the United States, where terrorism is underway and the entity is obsessed with the capitalistic endeavor. That's all that's underway. Criminal surveillance and making money. Okay, and in the United States, that's a federal RICO case. Criminal conduct, public corruption, the entity that's doing so while you are maintaining the malicious guise of a business that's supposed to appear legitimate, and it doesn't appear legitimate under the fake. Nothing is legitimate under the fake sun. Nothing is accidental or coincidental under the fake sun either. This is where the entity and corrupt business owners like Bezos, like what is Steve Jones, and their companies that are engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they do so with impunity, molesting with impossible light, stalking under the fake sun, stalking with the government that's using all manner of planes and helicopters to terrorize and threaten an American citizen that is keeping record of it, putting it right on the internet, and then you're going to be in the face of the public and you think that they don't see exactly what you are, because they do. They see exactly what you are, and they also know, most importantly, that you're demons. They know who you are. They know that you're the Nephilim. They know exactly what and they're going to witness your prosecution. 9 FPC 589, mentally ill. License plate 9JMG 097, mentally ill. They're all stalking with engineer light dragging behind their vehicles. That has nothing to do with them being under the fake sun. Another item assessing criminal engagement in the P.O.C. and the outward demonstration of mental illness. The fake sun is distinct from the impossible light. They engage in this conduct, and they also, as demons, engage in the ability to refrain from that conduct. When I turn my camera on, and I've caught it thousands of times, but when I turn my camera on, they engage in it, and then also it immediately stops as well. These are demons. Okay, those are both items of evidence speaking to intent, speaking to mental illness that is borne by the entity of demons that are stalking, and it is also malicious conduct, psychologically harmful to the target individual, and it is relevant to analyzing domestic terrorism by that government that's conspiring the murder and maintaining an unabated program of psychological torture, which, since the entity went out of its way, Steve Jones and Allied Universal share in. Okay, they're the ones that decided to come under this fake sun at 7:20. And you know where the fake sun is when they drove off? Because none of them are sharing the natural environment at all. None of them are sharing what is the targeted status. They drive away and that fake sun is sitting stationary here. They are targeting with knowledge and intent. Knowledge even of the evidence. That is speaking to the intention to repeat in that ongoing threat and that criminal engagement with the government that's a psychopath. Having an army of demons stalking in planes, following me down the street. License 61791L3. That's P.O.C. It is currently 7:34 a.m. This is put it all into perspective, because the entity is going to be prosecuted. The domestic terrorists are identified as those that are running the city airports, running the fire departments, running the police departments, and also running establishments like Starbucks, like UNICARE Community Health Center, where you need to know the demon-possessed that are gang stalking are in the medical field and they pose a threat to the public. That's what Arrowhead Regional Medical Center represents. Gang stalking with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, sharing in what is kidnapping, manufacturing information and facts to support lies that they made with regard to defaming my character, while they kidnap with the Ontario Police Department, with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. And there is no document that they can produce that's going to override and supersede the clear evidence the probative evidence, the direct evidence, the unambiguous evidence of targeting by that government that committed kidnapping and exchanged hands and committed kidnapping with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, and exchanged hands and engaged in kidnapping with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, and exchanged hands and engaged in kidnapping with the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. That are gang stalking, every aspect. San Bernardino County Sheriff, Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, they're all documented gang stalkers. Replete with the fake sun over me. Stalking with planes and helicopters, sharing in psychological torture. So these documents that they've produced, it's relevant to what is their mental illness, psychopathic, corrupt. Convinced that because of their position, because of the corruption, because of the cooperative system in place, no one is ever going to question, and no one is ever going to be able to prove, and no one is ever going to speak louder than, if you will, be more powerful, be more able to establish whatever it is the gang stalker wants to state. Arrowhead Regional Medical Center is going to be prosecuted as a kidnapper, and they're mentally ill. They are absurdly mentally ill while they are also in the medical field. They've engaged in trying to cloak me as one having a relationship with them, and the relationship is that they kidnap me. That's it. And you know who they kidnap me? The gang stalker you're looking at stalking me every day in helicopters. Every day. This is why when you lose self-control and you don't realize that there is evidence that's going to be brought back up, it's directly relevant to what you would like to claim legitimately without anybody questioning it, without anybody thinking twice about it. Oh, that you're not kidnapping. Oh, but yes, you are. And it starts with the people of the state who are proven to be targeting. It starts with the identification of a very suspicious environment that also surrounds me where I'm in your presence at your so-called legitimate facilities that you would like to claim are accepted, where you are claiming that there is a relationship that does not exist, and I can vocalize and communicate that on my own. They are necessarily kidnapping, defaming, and muzzling while they are engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it includes the government. That's San Bernardino County, Fontana Lewis Library, San Bernardino County, the San Bernardino County TAD office is San Bernardino County, the gang stalkers on the roads and the highways with San Bernardino County vehicles, that's San Bernardino County, while Arrowhead Regional Medical Center is also San Bernardino County, a very heavily documented gang stalker. They can write out as many documents as they want because everybody that engaged in criminal defamation, guess where you're going? And guess how many letters after your name? It's not changing it. I don't care if you got MD, DD, A, guess what letters are going? PRISON. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. It doesn't matter how many initials you got, how many acronyms you got. You and those acronyms are going to a cell, a federal cell. You're going to federal prison. Those are the domestic terrorists that are targeting American citizens. They are necessarily defaming your character, falsely depicting you as criminals, falsely depicting you as mentally ill, and abusing the laws that are in place in order to do so. In fact, the laws are crafted for that very abuse, which is also why these laws are going to change. The P.O.C. and the case that the entity sought to manufacture against me when I've been maintaining the case in chief the entire time for years, which this government sought to obstruct justice in doing so by kidnapping me. And now those very kidnappings are used to prove that they're targeting. When you're targeting, there is no mental illness. When you're targeting, it directly rebuts your mendacious claims, okay? When you are targeting, it's proof that you are maliciously making assertions. When you're targeting, that's the means whereby you even have any access to the targeted individual who otherwise would be free and unencumbered by your defamatory and libelous presence. Understand, targeting disproves everything, it rebuts everything. And they are relying on the gang stalkers, Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams, who are going to be convicted for kidnapping. They're going to prison, okay? And it starts, like I said, with the gang stalkers that are of this terrorist agency. And these fools provide me evidence day and night. And I've been clocking it on a systematic basis. Stalking with helicopter, thank you, because the demons at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center that engaged in kidnapping, they're going to prison. Lisa Rogan is sharing in that kidnapping. That's not a coincidence that I'm being targeted on the roads and the high. I'm being targeted, and then having not even ever met this woman, while I'm speaking to attorneys that are criminally denying what is the right to zealous advocacy, zealous representation in court, when I am exposing to them the fact that I'm being targeted and that I've been maintaining my own information documentation about it, and then the first time while you're violating my rights with regard to a criminal case in the first place, a criminal case that's fake, a criminal case that doesn't even have a real DA, a criminal case where you've engaged in kidnapping at the outset, and then you're engaging the first day that I meet you. Lisa Rogan wasn't even a part of any case that I had before that, so she's just jumping in as the presiding judge, by the way, at Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. That's fine, she's going to prison. You're going to prison. But the entity is engaged in violating a lot of the fundamental rights that you have at the outset. That's not a coincidence, however, when I'm stating the people of the state are targeting these demons that are handing over evidence, heaping loads of evidence, mountains of evidence that you're targeting. Thank you for stalking me with impossible light. Thank you for stalking me under the fake sun. Thank you for making malicious assertions about my character, just making up information when I'm not even speaking to you, never met you before, but at the same time you want to claim that you're not targeting. Thank you for acting like nothing's happening when the entity is flying over the top of my head by helicopters day and night. Thank you for doing all that, because it's directly relevant to the entity that is targeting the government itself, those agencies, the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, the American Medical Response, repeatedly engaging in kidnapping, manufacturing information about why you're kidnapping. Oh, okay, there was a physical encounter. Oh, I molested a child. Oh, I attacked somebody. Okay, I'm just freaking out and that's why you're here. Okay, so then you engage in kidnapping. So they're making it up while they're stalking the entire time, which is the case of the P.O.C. I've been handling. The entity then it's not a coincidence, in other words, that the entity is engaging what is violating the rules of the court, violating your due process rights, having one new judge after another while they're maintaining a fictitious prosecution, because it does not ever convert to being legitimate. But even while they're engaging in a fictitious prosecution, this is not a coincidence. What you have is a pattern of conduct that is facilitated. Gang stalking is facilitated at the sophisticated level of the ongoing facilitating courts that are not coincidentally nor ignorantly violating your rights, and they necessarily are, because if you weren't a criminal, then they would be engaging what is not entertaining. You're not coincidentally entertaining a criminal case against somebody that didn't engage in any criminal conduct. When you're engaging in surveillance, they know you're not a criminal. That's called kidnapping. This is not just an imperfect system. It's actually working exactly the way that it was designed. It's surveillance upon the absence of any coincidence. All of the P.O.C. And then you have what is, you're going to tell me to report to court for a trial. And I'm talking about 2020, when Lisa Rogan committed kidnapping in February 2020. She's going to prison. But that's what I'm referring to right now. That's one of the first kidnappings, okay? So that's not a coincidence, in other words, that all this targeting is underway outside on a daily basis. I'm documenting it. I'm telling my so-called public defender, all right, and then they're saying, okay, so we're going to have it, and this was a trap to have me go to court expecting a trial, okay, because while you're representing me, you should be telling me what I should be expecting. And if you have some trouble, if you're concerned about my well-being, then that's something that you should have committed. You don't engage in some sort of coup. You don't engage in some sort of ambush in court telling me, oh yeah, go ahead and report to court and I'll have you testify to what your experiences are. This is Laura Alvarez, who's going to federal prison with West Valley, the West Valley Public Defender's Office, who was never defending me whatsoever, was non-communicative, violating her professional duties, and that was not a civil issue. That's not an administrative issue with regard to her license. That's criminal, because she's gang stalking. And to be clear, the fake sun is over that courthouse. I surrounded her. I surrounded those judges. I surrounded that courthouse with the evidence already. While the entities keeping the fake sun and Ontario police are gang stalking on Euclid Avenue by helicopter day and night for years, there's never any natural environment where the sun's going to be over the Haven Avenue, Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, where Lisa Rogan is engaging in kidnapping with demons like Laura Alvarez. Okay, and they're engaging in kidnapping together, not coincidentally, while you're engaging what is setting me up, expecting a trial in what I already know is a fake case. This is all documentation to prosecute these demons that thought that they were going to have me locked up. No, you're getting locked up. That's what's actually happening. You are going to federal prison. This is how terrorism is executed in the U.S., where you have a corrupt system, and it's all serving criminal surveillance, all of it. They're engaging in what is, oh yeah, so I'm going to, in an email, so it's proof about what she stated and what the intention was, malicious. So she's not stating that you're going to stand before Lisa Rogan and I'm concerned about what it is that you're reporting, even though there's nothing to be concerned about. When you have evidence of the P.O.C. like I have, it is their duty to represent your interests and bring it up in court. Nothing was said at all. Nothing was said. In fact, the entity engaged in what is the P.O.C., criminal defamation. while gang stalking in the courthouse, okay? The demon-possessed people of the state that are stalking with light, they're stalking with light just like you see inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, just like you see inside of my hotel rooms, just like you see inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, just like you see inside of my apartment at Alvarado Gardens where I'm being kept under surveillance. That's what they're doing, gang stalking, just like you see inside of Starbucks. They're gang stalking inside of the courthouse of Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. It's not sunlight. And you can see the structure of that courthouse. It would never be sunlight. That courthouse is designed to where there wouldn't even be any sunlight that would manifest. It's not shooting like a laser through those tinted windows that are at the top of the building. You can look at the courthouse, and I've documented. So the entity is stalking with impossible light, while, again, Lisa Rogan, who I never met before, is arriving on what I'm expecting is supposed to be a trial, and what I also already know is a fictitious prosecution. However, I am cooperating because I am documenting the government that is keeping me under surveillance and gang stalking me, and already sought to obstruct justice by refusing to provide service of process. That's Thomas Garza's criminal conduct with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. That's also a documented gang stalker. Fake son over West Valley Detention Center where they're kidnapping. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. All right, and Lisa Rogan is engaging in what is stating, oh, there's no trial? Oh, I'm not getting a trial. Oh, you're going to have me committed. Oh, because outside of custody, I wouldn't cooperate with commitment, where commitment is under no circumstances called for. What I'm here for and what I was entitled to with regard to a fake misdemeanor charge is a trial, which I did not waive the 30 days in order to have that trial in a timely manner, nor was that sort of ambush conduct called for with regard to the rules of the court, with regard to the law, okay? But the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, and when you are asserting that the government is targeting you in the way in which the demons are, stalking with commercial planes and helicopters, and stalking as a population, doing so under a fake sun and with engineered light, which ties it all together, all of them. The gang stalker at Starbucks with the gang stalker sitting on the bench at the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the same entity. When you're engaging in that conduct, this is the entity that seeks to defame your character, but it doesn't work when you have the evidence of them actually targeting you. So Lisa Rogan is acting in conformity to a pattern of conduct where the Ontario police commit the kidnapping as the entity. It is continued by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. It is continued by the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. Every level sharing in what is stalking in that specific environment. Every level fooled with demons that are stalking with amplified noise, stalking with under that light source that remains over their facilities while they're molesting my person with impossible light in the way in which I've shown you is underway. That's exactly what they're doing in the court. That's exactly what they're doing at the West Valley, Shannon Dykes, in other words. And Lisa Rogan committed kidnapping in February of 2020. And the entity did so because of Thomas Garza's criminal act of what is the avoiding evasion of service of process. That was a criminal act with the intent to obstruct justice in furtherance of murder. Oh no, we're not going to give you your fundamental right to service of process. We're going to permit this we're going to permit this criminal system to occur uninterrupted, which is that's effectively accomplished by preclusion of my prosecution of the state, denying service of process, which was affirmed by the appellate court, Riverside, 4th Division, okay? This was affirmed by the California Supreme Court. This is no intricate legal question whatsoever. And meanwhile, the Ontario Police, the domestic terrorist Derek Williams, Mike Lorenz, maintaining ongoing surveillance in furtherance of murder. Targeting until the day that they can take your life, till they can kidnap you, till they're kidnapping in order to ultimately take your life. And the whole time, you've got things like fake death certificates. You've got things like fraudulent marriages, fake marriages to me. You've got things like a whole secret conservatorship. It's not even a real device. It's criminally procured based on fraud, based on this system of the gang stalkers themselves. They're the ones with their names on it. I have no knowledge of it. I have no participation in it. I've consented to it, not at all. I've been in no court hearings while they are coincidentally gang stalking me. No, that's not a coincidence. While the judges are engaged in what is clear deviation from how the rules of the court dictate that process is supposed to operate, while you're maintaining fictitious prosecutions regarding DA F. Ramos, somebody that's not even a part of the California bar, not a real person, pursuant to kidnapping by the entity that is proven to be targeting day and night. But they're more obsessed than they are logical, not thinking about how this evidence has history, it has roots, and it's going to affect what you already did and what I'm going to do to you in federal court, which is prosecute you. And all the kidnappers that are acting pursuant to the same system, down to the demons stalking at ARCO with commercial planes, down to that level of detail, Julia Gu being prosecuted as a terrorist. Keeping my vagina under surveillance at the OVITT Family Community Library. Under the fake sun that would never be over West Valley Detention Center at the same time. at any time of day when the entity's keeping the fake sun rising and set, that environment, which is to a scientific degree, letting you know that Lisa Rogan is not accidentally or coincidentally or negligently engaging in what is targeting, because that's what it is. It's not a failure. It's not an imperfect system. It's precise with regard to the way in which it's designed. This is surveillance. That's a kidnapping. She's going to prison. The people of the state that engage in gang stalking, put that demon in federal prison. It is speaking to the targeting that she is engaging in the courts, the sophisticated level of gang stalking, targeting, a targeting surveillance system in the courts, how it operates. They know exactly who you are. They know exactly what it is that you committed and did not commit. And they are keeping themselves employed while they're maintaining an unspoken and secret system of surveillance, which is targeting. And that's what I was subject to while I was documenting it. I documented the civil courts. I documented the criminal courts, gang stalking demons. The impossible light activity swiping across the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. Everybody in that courthouse is gang stalking. Just like Sarah's Regis group, those demons that are gang stalking with impossible light, it's not different. It's the same P.O.C. The entities engaged in gang stalking me, that's gang stalking me specifically, while San Bernardino County is maintaining helicopter activity, and the fake sun is over my head at that Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. They're stalking me in particular. That's how you are understanding and recognizing very specific target. Lisa Rogan's words that came out of her mouth in February 2020, they were libelous. They were libelous, and they were intending to serve the criminal purpose of stealing my money and property, defaming my character in doing so, committing a kidnapping in conformity to a pattern of conduct where you are abusing the laws, and she is abusing her position representing the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. That's the state of California that knows very well that there is no mental illness, while they've been keeping me under surveillance since I was a child, by the way. But let alone with regard to the P.O.C., this evidence that I have handy with regard to the fact that you're targeting through the gang stalking police department that committed a kidnapping, engaged in criminal summoning, targeting. That's what's relevant with regard to the police flying over my head for 6 minutes at the Ontario Town Square in concert with the people of the state. That's what's relevant with regard to stalking me up and down Euclid Avenue with commercial planes when there are no plane takeoffs that include a U-turn from the airport back to the airport after you cross my path going back toward that. That's the entity that's stalking. That's relevant to the kidnapping that Lisa Rogan committed pursuant to libelous, audible activity that demon is monitoring in that courtroom, wearing a robe and gang stalking with the demon-possessed people of the state who sit in the gallery, monitoring with communication devices. She's going to prison. She's going to prison. And she shares in that with Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. I captured the fake sun. Oh, you'll see it. It's already published on my website. This is the POC.wordpress.com. It's published with regard to exposing the corrupt law enforcement agencies, the corrupt courts. The fake sun that's over me at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, it's in perfect alignment with my room where I was kidnapped. That's not a coincidence. That's the P.O.C. The entity's keeping the fake sun from sunrise till sunset at the OVITT Family Community Library, people. When is it going to be in Colton, outside of any room of that hospital in Colton, California, at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center? It is when I'm there and I'm being gang stalked pursuant to what is exposing then kidnapping, where the entity is engaged in what is targeting you. And they did it necessarily through and with Lisa Rogan. That represents the state of California. Who did it through and by Thomas Garza? That represents the state of California. Those, I want to be clear, all angles of that. And I want to be clear, San Bernardino County Justice Center, fake sun over my head, stalking me by helicopter, flying over the top of my head. It's already on the record. Okay? This is the P.O.C. This is how I want to be clear. The entity is very imprudent. The entity is very unintelligent. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. The entity that's engaging in gang stalking and doing so with the level of impunity that I document, the demons with all types of acronyms behind their name, they're going to federal prison. All right, they're going to federal prison, and you are not pass and go. You're not collecting $200. The mayor's being taken out of office. You are shutting down and disbanding terrorist agencies like the Ontario Police Department, who aid Lisa Rogan, who aid Thomas Garza in what is targeting and furtherance of murder to avoid exposure. But that didn't work. Their witchcraft doesn't work, and neither does criminal defamation. Defamation that is serving the criminal system of federal group stalking and monitoring. That's what that is. You can look up my definitions. The I.I.S. federal legislation that I advocate, that's a systematic infliction of inhumane suffering. This is a federal law that I advocate with regard to prosecuting domestic terrorism in this country that is not existing on the books. And why? Because it's the U.S. government that's targeting. That's why the law doesn't exist. And I have created it. I have created, sitting back and being subject to it and studying how this system works and all the malicious iterations of targeting an American citizen. And there is a federal response for each and every last tactic. There's a federal response. Okay, now the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they do so thinking that all they have to do is just state, and if it comes out of Lisa Rogan's mouth, then it's gospel. If it comes out of Thomas Garza's mouth, that the fact that it's not going to happen, even if it's the law, even if the rules of court mandate that that's what you're supposed to do, even if it's an obligation mandated by statute, that because a judge says it, that means that that's what's going to rule, and that's not. That's corruption, and you're going to prison because it's obstruction of justice and furtherance of murder. You're trying to make sure that the system can continue unexposed so that I can be subject to a demise. You can get away with stealing my money, stealing my reputation, my good name, so that nobody listens to what it is that I was supposed to tell the world about the Nephilim and the criminal system that they engage in targeting me with, so that these demons that anticipated being exposed would get away with it. License 9T UA 417, serial stalking, okay? Engaging in that pattern of conduct, and if that's an immigrant, he's being deported, his mom, his cousins, his brother and sister, the entity is bringing the heat on the whole household, on the whole family. So that's a serial stalker. Any sort of immigrants that are related, it's not just him, because it could be the younger siblings, it could be the abuelitos, okay? The grandparents, the uncles and the auntie. You're bringing the heat on, you're having fun stalking every day, and you're going to be suffering the federal repercussions. This is the entity that's, again, mentally ill, failing to recognize that this is not a game. The only one that's playing is them, and they're playing with their own lives. They're playing with their future. They're playing with their reputation. They're playing with their citizenship. They're playing with their freedom. The entity is engaging in this conduct, and the entity is doing so in concert with the corrupt state actors who are in the courts. Understand, Mike LORENZ is gang stalking in concert with the sheriff's department and in concert with the court. It's beyond these little peasants on the street stalking under the fake sun. It's beyond that. But that's relevant to understand the people of the state are the entity that's acting vicariously. They're stalking as a whole government system of surveillance. There's no mistake. They not only know that you're not guilty of whatever XYZ crime, they know that you're not mentally ill. They will label you according to what? While they abuse a system that's designed to facilitate that, where you have a panel of demons of your peers that are engaging in what is coming to a decision based on the facts and the laws. Now that system is present, but this is speaking to what is suspect with regard to the irrebuttable presumption of what is public corruption upon facts of federal group stalking and monitoring. And right now I'm referring to law that I have created. Okay, so when you have established, in other words, the P.O.C, that's creating as a matter of law, you are creating an irrebuttable presumption of public corruption. So that means whatever the government thought that was not going to be questioned just because the judge said that a courthouse put it on paper, that does not mean that the federal court, that the federal government is going to respect it. It doesn't mean it at all. Everything is suspicious. In other words, because the government is under what is this irrebuttable presumption. You're under the fake sun, and they know what the crime scene looks like. They know what the surveillance system operates as. Enter in the P.O.C, praise God, okay? They know what this system is operating as, and so they are aware, in other words. That doesn't mean automatically guilt, okay? But it basically is, okay? But everybody is entitled to, and you know what, I take that back. Because the entity could try, not the entity, but someone could try, well, that would be the entity that would engage in that nefarious purpose. Understand, it's only demons. The entity that is targeting American citizens, targeting someone like myself that's not a criminal, I'm not breaking the law. I'm not here minding anybody else's business. I'm not here minding my own. The people, anyone that is engaged in what is trying to abuse any law that would be created to protect American citizens from this surveillance system, that's the same entity, okay? So that's what I mean by that. So essentially, I will say that it would be the entity's act. But my point is, say you're trying to exploit the system in some way and assert that you're being targeted when you're not actually being targeted. We're all under surveillance, though. So in that regard, we're all being targeted, if you will. But the entity is targeting specific people in furtherance of murdering them, kidnapping them, stealing from them, whatever. A bunch of demons don't like you. They're all engaging in surveillance already, and that's shared by the government. That's stalking you in helicopters and in planes, and stalking you as a whole government agendas. Like, they're not even firefighting. They're engaged in keeping you under surveillance as a fire department. They're engaged in sounding their sirens with regard to keeping you under surveillance, monitoring you. That's the level of evidence that you're going to have. You're not going to be able to just claim, oh, they're keeping me under surveillance and I'm going to sue. We're all under surveillance. We're all under surveillance, okay? You don't have any privacy. Now, moreover, the entity engages in what is a targeting system, organized crime. Beyond the criminal surveillance in the United States that's outside of the Constitution, that's crime. That's a crime. The government's engaged in criminal activity. The surveillance system is in concert with the people of the state. Everybody's engaged in surveillance. This is public corruption. That's the definition of that. The entity is engaged in what is targeting, even more, targeting specific people. All the entity that's engaged in surveillance, this corrupt entity, targets people in order to kill them, to kidnap them, to defame them in doing so. Okay, because they want to cover their tracks after they take your life, take your reputation, and that serves taking your money, taking your property, where they abuse laws. Oh yeah, they're crazy. They kill themselves, or you know, they're a threat. They keep trying to kill these people, or they keep trying to do whatever to these kids, whatever they want to falsely depict you as. And that serves their purposes of wanting to say you have a lot of money, say you have property, say you don't even know that you have that sort of property. You've been living your life as a, you know, regular Joe Schmo, and God bless you, okay? But you don't know that you have all this, but the demon-possessed that are engaged in surveillance, they do. They know. And you're not claiming it, and you're not going to get an opportunity to claim it, because they're going to have you they're going to off you before you even come into that sort of knowledge. All right? Or say that you are an ordinary Joe Schmo, and God bless you, because that's not an insult. I mean, you are a private citizen that's living your life. You're not a celebrity. You're not a billionaire, and you write a book. You come up with your own creation, and it's going to be it's very likely going to be very successful. You come up with an invention or something, and you're very much likely and destined for not only fame, but wealth behind what you created in your home by yourself. Nobody helped you. The entity that engages in targeting does so. They engage in gang stalking with regard to a criminal means of infringement. Like, they do that. It could be when you're unaware of the fact that you're under surveillance. Your invention is not private. They know what you're inventing. They know and they want to off you before you get to come out with it. They'll off you and then claim that they created it. Okay? And by they, I mean the entity is picking and choosing winners, if you will. And this is also what I've experienced, having gone to college, having gone to law school, having made all the right decisions. And this entity, this corrupt government, went in other words, it doesn't matter whether you are educated. It doesn't matter. And it is not race. It's not race alone. I'll say that. Because an outsider that's ignorant will say, well, that's because you're a black woman. And it is not. It is not. It is not because I'm a black. That's what the demons want you to focus on. This is not about racism. It's deeper than that. This is spiritual. These are demons, and they are very much intimidated by who I am and my ability to identify them in the spirit, and also that skill set to prosecute them here on earth in the physical. That's very threatening to Satan. Okay? I want to be clear. This is not, I just happen to be one that is in a black woman's body. That's it. That's it. You are more than the flesh and bone that you are cloaked in. You are more than that. The enemy wants you to focus on the carnal, on the temporary. Okay? You are more than that. You are a whole spiritual being. While you want to at the same time deny the spiritual realm, deny the existence of God, you are yourself a spiritual being. Made in the image of God. You cannot actually deny God. Your life is an ongoing proclamation of the existence of God, whether you realize that or not, but that's the truth. So the entity is engaging in this P.O.C, and they are targeting. That's a way of which the entity is deciding to target people, okay? These are some of the motivations behind it, and these are criminals. These are demons, in other words, and they engage in targeting people. This is an unspoken system. This is relevant to what is corruption by the government, because the government has not announced to all of us that they're keeping us under surveillance. Not only that, there is no constitutional basis to not only be engaged in surveillance, but to do so with the people of the state. The civilian population is engaging in surveillance, and they're doing so pursuant to targeting people to off them. Okay, now I'm speaking in the vernacular. That is to take their life, to commit a homicide. That's a murder. That's an intentional taking of the life, and that can occur in many malicious manners, such as an accidental car collision. But it's not an accident, because surveillance is underway and they were targeting the entire time. That's a murder. Okay? They're doing so while you coincidentally have insurance policies out on you, insurance policies you don't even know about. People that don't even know you in your life that have insurance policies, that's because surveillance is underway. You're being targeted. People are making money off of your demise. It's like putting a lottery on your life. These are demons. These are evil people. This is Satan. This is the work of Satan. And they're coming around at ARCO and CHEVRON and filling up their gas tanks, gang stalking, and then going on to work for the rest of the day. This is the population of terrorists. These are enemies of the United States while you're analyzing how the law works and how you're analyzing how the government is supposed to be conducting itself and what the government should not be engaging in with the population, even if it is engaging in what is corrupt behavior. That's when you're getting to understanding this is terrorism. This is a threat to the country. Okay, so you need to understand that this is a threat to what this country stands for. This is a threat to literally society, American society as we know it, especially as it's exposed. What do you see as I expose that? You see that maniacal psychopath come out and show its fangs, stalking, flying over my head for 6 minutes at the Ontario Town Square. How is that going to help Arrowhead Regional Medical Center and every demon that put their name on documents that have nothing to do with me, they're kidnapping and defaming? How's that going to help them? How is that establishing that somebody is mentally ill in court? Because it's not. It's proof of being targeted, and it's directly rebutting what the entity would like to without any infringement upon. Don't infringe upon what they want to state. Don't try to argue and state that you're not our patient. You are our patient because we said that you're our patient, and the entities engaged in what is targeting the entire time is directly relevant to the gang stalking by the corrupt agencies. That's their role in kidnapping you. That's how they get you in their clutches. That's how they establish what is an entirely fraudulently procured means of defaming your character. And it's more than fraud, it's criminal. They kidnap you in order to force you into what is the appearance and relationship. That's literally, I mean, it's literally kidnapping. It's cold-blooded, evil, wicked conduct. In your mind, I need you to understand this. They are kidnapping you. They are forcing you to wear their uniform as their patient. They're forcing you to stay in their facility as their patient. They're forcing you to ingest whatever drugs they want to put in your body as their patient. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're not a patient. You were kidnapped by the gang stalking police department, who made up information as to why they were kidnapping you in the first place. But they call it an arrest while they're engaged in gang stalking under the guise of law enforcement. And nobody's questioning that. And gang stalking judges like Lisa Rogan, they sign off on it. As a matter of fact, they create it while they're maintaining criminal acts, which is every court hearing, pursuant to a fictitious prosecution. That gang stalkers like Laura Alvarez share in. You're going to federal prison every step of that process, every single step of that process. The targeted individual that loses their liberty, and it's not based upon how many hours you were locked up, because the entity does this, putting people in prison for life. The entity does this by sentencing innocent American citizens to the death penalty. The entity does this by putting people in prison for years, and nobody knows about it. In fact, many of them don't even know that they were targeted. They know that they're innocent, that they didn't do it, but they don't know that there's a whole elaborate targeting system and a gang stalker framed them pursuant to a state system. They don't know that. It's not going to be based on the fact that the entity kidnapped me and then I was released 10 hours later. It is the unconstitutional fact where you are, I want to be clear, you're going to prison, and you're not going to prison for 10 hours. You're not going to federal prison for 6 months. It's not going to be based on that. It's based on what the entity has no business doing in the first place. 2 people who are not documenting it, who are being kept in a bubble with no voice, against whom their witchcraft is effective. Okay, that witchcraft aspect, that's relevant to suffocating you in your sleep. That's relevant to the psychological torture inherent to gang stalking you on a ceaseless basis and also spiritually attacking you. That's where that witchcraft comes in. That's that maniacal, that evil, wicked intent to harm you, to destroy you, inside and out, while they're driving around in police vehicles and in fire trucks and in commercial airline planes like Delta Airlines. All right, calling themselves a commissioner like Julia Gu of the Ontario Airport Board, calling themselves an executive team of the Ontario International Airport, calling themselves a sheriff's department, a county sheriff like Shannon Dykes. They're demons. And they are engaged in a comprehensive surveillance system, picking and choosing like they're God. They're not. God is exposing them. And God is prosecuting them. Guess what? You're going to prison. There's no exception to your authority. Oh, guess what? This is going to be making history. Fire chiefs, police chiefs, county sheriffs, prison. MDs, prison. You're going to federal prison. This is how this system operates. And you're going to prison just like any gang. You think somebody is beneath you because they came from El Salvador and they wear rags and they're trying to get housing assistance. You're going to be right in the cell with them thinking you're above them. You're not above anybody. You are subject to the same laws. In fact, laws are going to be deliberately crafted for your malicious, corrupt behaviors, serving a whole system. The laws that are designed, cognizant with the pattern of conduct that the whole world watch you engage in. That's what was informing federal law. They are designed to put such terrorists in the United States away. Terrorists that think that they are above the law because they have money, terrorists like Steve Jones, terrorists like Bezos, Amazon Prime, very heavily documented terrorists, very heavily documented, maniacal. As I say, Amazon Prime, a whole group of those demons I've documented over the years, like cockroaches. They infest wherever I'm at. As soon as I refer to a demon by any company name, I've documented that over the years. And I always pointed it out to you, and then I stopped pointing out because you're going to look at it in the evidence. You're going to recognize the pattern. It's pursuant to surveillance. And they're demons. They're just demons that operate company names, and those company names are going to be prosecuted. I want to be clear. You can go from gang stalking for a company as an employee to prison. I just want to be clear on that. There is no exception with regard to terrorism. It is un-American, and it is impermissible. It is unacceptable in this country. The entity is engaging in this conduct, and you don't like it. And so because you don't like it, so you engage in what is terror. It's all over the internet, and Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams are going to sit in a federal court behind it, stalking me in a helicopter for 6 minutes because you don't like my commentary on my podcast. And here we are another day because it's not stopping it. It's not slowing it down. In fact, you're informing the federal laws that are going to be created around terrorists just like you throughout the country. All right, because the rest of the world needs to understand also what is not tolerable, what we're not welcoming in this country, unbeknownst to American citizens. And now it's no longer a secret. Now it's no longer maintained as some unsupported conspiracy theory that only the mentally ill are claiming because they can't prove it. That's a lie. That's the P.O.C. That's serving criminal defamation. The entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct, and I want to be clear. What I just described, what the entity is doing on a day-to-day basis, this is going back to what Lisa Rogan committed in 2020. There's no statute of limitations with regard to terrorism. There's also no statute of limitations when I remain subject to that criminal system. And in case you were questioning, there was no pause in the P.O.C. when I was kidnapped by Ontario Police Department in July of 2022. And when I relocate to Los Angeles, resuming employment, and I'm being gang stalked on the job. This is what Dominic Choi and Michael Moore proved to you. The impossible pattern of conduct. And by impossible, I mean it's impossible to manufacture these facts. I can't control all of those factors. I could not make it up if I wanted to. This is them handing over. And this is, again, the entity that engages in this large of a crime, they do so betting their lives. They bet their lives because they're accustomed to getting away with it. But it's such a large, large bet. And when Satan cannot come through on somebody that is going to expose based on what her purpose is, and guess what? That bargain, you lost on that gamble. Everybody just sacrificed themselves. Everybody. Everybody. Everybody sacrificed. And this is going back. Lisa Rogan, Thomas Garza. The entity that's stating you're not going to give me service of process so that I can submit my civil suit against the state that's currently stalking me day and night, stealing my car, stealing everything that I owned, stuff that cannot be replaced in my car, where I'm living, where you are maliciously doing so as though you claim that you thought it was abandoned when you're also gang stalking me while I'm living in my car at the same time. That sort of mental illness, which is psychopathic, is putting these terrorists in prison. While they're gang stalking you with those same actors under the fake sun, and then they use that to try to trigger you, and that's supposed to create the illusion to the ignorant onlooker that you are mentally ill. When you're looking at, I'm showing you how the system operates, they're going to prison. Like I said, every gang stalking police officer under the fake sun, under the fake moon at night, in the specific environment, I documented you, you're going to prison. You're going to federal prison, and you're putting your own boss, Derek Williams, and the one that's grandfathered in that same, Mike Lorenz. These are terrorists as well, terrorist leaders. This is how the system operates. Guess where they're going? With the kidnappers that share in kidnapping with them. This is what Lisa Rogan shares in. Criminal defamation, because they surmise when they, as the government says that they're crazy, meaning don't listen to them, it's totally illegitimate what they're talking about, they're just crazy, we're going to have them committed, we're going to handle this, and it's supposed to be legitimate because it's coming out of the so-called proverbial mouth of that court, of that sheriff's department, of that police department. Oh, they've all shown that they're all a bunch of demons that are gang stalking and obsessed with my vagina. That's how much legitimacy they have. They're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. Okay? And this is a long time coming. I want to be clear. Don't cry for them. They're being deported out of this country. Don't cry for them. You have no idea what they've done to other people. This is a long time coming. You're witnessing what they're doing while they're looking at. They know the raids are coming. They know the end. They know that it's coming, and they're still targeting. You know why? Because they're already dead. They're already dead. These are dead spirits that are using bodies. Demon possession is real. Satan has a chokehold on a whole population of people, and they're serving his purposes. And you know what? Satan knows who he can and cannot have. So what actually is happening is the joke is on them, and it's not funny. Because this is what Satan's purpose is, to drag as many into the pit of hell as possible, to deceive as many as he possibly can. And it's my job to embarrass and prosecute you. If you don't accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, if you don't take heed to a warning that you're given, that's not my business. I'm here to prosecute. But you were given the warning. You were given the warning. While you're focused on the fact that it came out of the mouth of a black woman, that you don't like that I'm more educated and skilled than you, that I'm more capable than you professionally, that I did more with the little that you basically stole from me, because I have a whole bunch of money, honey, and you stole it. That doesn't make me a brokey, that makes you a thief. But this is not about that. This is not about that. All those superficial things. I'm prosecuting. I'm prosecuting for people that do not know what's happening to them, and they have no way of enforcing. What do? So they sit in a corner, and it's not because you're weak. It's because you're a human being. It's because you've been targeted, you've been bullied by Satan himself, who has a chokehold on a whole population of psychopaths. And they're being dealt with. They're being dealt with before the world, in the same way that they like to publicly humiliate and execute innocent people. And you're innocent insofar as the government targeting you. Okay, your innocence before Christ Jesus, that's between you and him. If you haven't accepted him as your Lord and Savior, if you have not repented for your sins, if you have not been baptized in the name of Christ Jesus, okay, and that's what this is, an ongoing running campaign. You need to accept Jesus today. He's coming back, and he's coming back in judgment. This is a warning. The prosecution of the state of California is a warning. The exposure of the Nephilim is a warning. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and as you're witnessing mental illness of a population that is demon possessed, that is a warning. The entities going to federal prison as surely as you hear that plane activity. They're going to prison. Gang stalkers that are masquerading as medical professionals, gang stalkers masquerading as police officers, gang stalkers masquerading as police chiefs and fire chiefs and EMTs, they're going to prison. Gang stalkers masquerading as public officials, like you're a mayor? Oh, no, you're not. The evidence shows that you are a covert enemy of this country. You're a domestic terrorist. And that's how that's how this surveillance system operates. They're enemies of this country. They threaten the very fabric of this country. It's not a small thing. And the P.O.C. exposes them because they seek to conceal themselves, just like the demon-possessed, the Nephilim. They want to conceal themselves amongst us. But they're not like us. They're demons. They're not even normal human beings. They're not. They're dead spirits. That's why they derive pleasure from targeting people. That's not normal. That's not humane. That's abnormally wicked. It's of the devil, their father. Okay? To stalk somebody in a helicopter, you're looking at their mental illness is born of a demonic spirit that possesses them. That's not a defense in court. That's a psychological breakdown. Okay? The entity is going to be prosecuted. But this is what's wrong with them, in other words. That's what's wrong with them. Okay, this is P.O.C. It is currently 8:17 a.m. The fake sun is remaining where Allied Universal is targeting in this morning. And Allied Universal is getting no more attention than every other gang stalking company. Okay? The entities engaged in this P.O.C. The fake sun is remaining on the same block where Starbucks committed kidnapping. And science is going to put those baristas in prison. All right? The entities engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they derive pleasure. They think it's funny when American citizens are targeted. That's because they're psychopaths. There's nothing funny about it. In the same way, they don't think that this is funny being exposed as a psychopath. Oh, because that's not acceptable. That's not cool. That's not sexy at all. But that's what they are. There's nothing funny about it. The demons that are engaging in this pattern of conduct, they are in fact mentally ill. And the correction of what are oppressive laws serving this corrupt system are going to be changed. They're going to be changed. Because they are serving this very surveillance system that's been underway for a very long time. There is no ability to survey and assess mental illness pursuant to what is a surveillance system. You can just go in court and claim that anybody just claim that you're a friend while you're simultaneously targeting with the government that's engaged in covert surveillance. Oh, no, those laws are going to change. That is speaking to the threat that has now overwhelmed what is the perceived benefit of said laws, such laws like the Welfare and Institutions Code, not when the entities engaging in surveillance and targeting. The government cannot be trusted to do that. Okay, so you retain, regardless of how much alcohol you drink on a daily basis, that's your money. If you want to drain your resources, your money, and you want to be sleeping outside with the rest of these gang stalking bums, that's your mistake, that's your problem. But it's your business under the Constitution. The government actually has no legitimate interest in it. Neither do the people of the state. Neither do they. Okay, and I want to also be clear, that's not mental illness, that's an addiction. Try Jesus, okay? So you'll make different choices. This is all serving that surveillance system, that targeting system. It's all serving that, and it's out of the pit of hell. All right, it is currently 8:20 a.m. The fake sun is still here, like I stated, where the entity committed kidnapping. And L. Edwards is going to federal prison based on a pattern of conduct that is fully exposed and documenting, serving the malice behind what he committed on July 4th, 2025 at this same intersection while I'm inside of Starbucks, and that fake sun is in the background while I'm sitting inside of that venue. The entity keeps the fake sun setting here. Even while I'm at the OVITT Family Community Library, L. Edwards is going to federal prison. And his gang stalking boss, the domestic terrorist leader, Michael LORENZ, is going to be facing a federal prosecution, engaging in what is domestic terrorism and psychological torture, pursuant to what is the criminal conspiracy to commit murder of the American citizen that he is specifically targeting, that agency, including the criminal conduct of L. Edwards and that entire agency for a term of years. License 47432X1. DirecTV is a gang stalking company. The demon operating that vehicle is targeting with the city of Ontario and doing so under the fake sun and is stalking with impossible light. It is currently 8:21 a.m. All right, federal prison is inclusive of Tracy Banks and Eric Corey Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, Jason Isaac Fields, and any other federal agent that is engaged in what is defaming my character and engaged in what is targeting me with the state pursuant to the same pattern of conduct, targeting me in concert with San Bernardino County, which is the Ontario Police, engaging in, including, considering, relying upon any of the criminal acts of kidnapping and criminal defamation, which Jason Isaac Fields and the federal government has engaged in. They're all going to federal prison. The entity does not have a defense stating that you were ignorant. That is not a defense with regard to American citizens who are subject to murder, who are subject to kidnapping. They're going to prison. And more relevant is that these are demons that are still spiritually attacking. They're mentally ill, and they're also going to be subject to what are mental examinations, and that includes Jason Isaac Fields. 8DRM583 is gang stalking pursuant to criminal conduct by the federal government, by Jason Isaac Fields, who does not maintain any defense. 9BFD320, 9JJM829, 8ZRK326, and license 9VPC240. Balbir is gang stalking with impossible light while the demons are putting her out of this country. Gang stalking customers. The entities engaged in that CHEVRON and ARCO. That's the entity that's gang stalking the San Bernardino County Housing Authority. The entity that's stalking by the City of Ontario. Those demons are parked with a dumpster truck on the side of the Sarah's Regis Group while they're stalking with light. This is how desperate they are. And Jason Isaac Fields and the gang stalking fake family members of mine, they're all going to prison. Okay, this is P.O.C. The entity is engaged in what is absurdly delusional behavior while engaging in the P.O.C. and you're not avoiding federal prison, and this is on behalf of any American citizen that will be subject to this. The government that is targeting you is going to federal prison for targeting you as a family member, doing so with regard to what is the ability to literally have you murdered and then sit in a courtroom and speak to the fact that you are responsible for your own demise. The entity that is cooperating with your family and targeting you, they're going to federal prison. This is the role that Jason Isaac Fields holds with regard to having Tracy Banks as his long-term sex partner, and then is also engaged in what is witchcraft, engaged in what is spiritually attacking me, and this delusional psychopath is still a demon, is still spiritually attacking, is still in need of mental examinations, and he's also in need of what is a prolonged term in federal prison, and that's what he's getting. He's going to prison. All right, this is P.O.C. The ongoing criminal conduct, in other words, that I remain subject to is putting them in prison. There's no argument out of that. Okay, you're going to prison. This is, again, in the same way that the gang stalking police put the gang stalking sheriff in the gang stalking court where they belong in prison, exposes them, serves to prosecute them. So do the gang stalking entity put the gang stalking family members and all their sex partners that are conspiring against your character, that defamed you, that puts them in prison as well. And there's no getting out of that. You're not getting out of that. P.O.C. All right, 48773B3, that's Ardora. Gang stalking at the Ontario City Hall yesterday, as I documented. The entity that's, again, demon-possessed, the personality of Satan is one of being very sophomoric, very petty, very immature. So they typically engage in what is targeting you again, and you'll also see that pattern in my documentation. There's no coincidences under the fake sun. So they're all engaged in surveillance. Oh, you documented me, you called me, you are a demon. But that's why you're engaging in an act of retaliation, which is not an act of retaliation when you're being prosecuted. This is the entity that's, again, mentally ill. Their mental illness literally precludes the ability for them to engage in any intelligent iteration of gang stalking. It's unintelligent, it's under a fake sun. But the entity engages in that sort of petty conduct, and that company is gang stalking yesterday, and they do so pursuant to knowledge of documentation. That's the entity that's very immature with regard to what is operating that commercial vehicle. Very delusional. This is, again, demons like Jason Isaac Fields. You conspired my murder. You've been having ongoing illicit sex, group sex, gay sex, ritualistic sex with everybody that I know, which I don't care. You're not anything to me. You're irrelevant. You had sex with my mom to have some sort of relevance because you thought you were going to steal my money. This demon is mentally ill. If you were to ask him what's wrong with him, he couldn't tell you. That's how sick he is. And he also is delusional with regard to avoiding prison. He's going to prison, and he's going to get routine mental examinations as well. You're not gang stalking an American citizen, conspiring their murder with the state, and then avoiding federal prison. You're also not engaging in the criminal conduct that Jason Isaac Fields has committed and avoiding mental examinations. No gang stalker is, but certainly not him. All right, the criminal acts that he's committed is speaking to what is the absolute need for a battery of tests. It is currently 8:28 a.m. This is P.O.C. 5B3. G337C1, gang stalking with CMAX, gang stalking with light activity at Sarah's Regis Group, downtown Ontario, maintaining light activity at the same apartment. 8LQU226, the entity has the fake sun over me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at this same apartment complex where demons, who are also on video, stalking with a possible light, like this mentally ill person, gang stalking, license 90603X3, license 26742H2. License 07403E4. These are mentally ill demons who are stalking and further into murder, driving around in impossible light activity. They are exposing their demon possession, and they are exposing their mental illness. 8PMK154. It will be used to assess mental illness in federal courts where the terrorists are going to be prosecuted. 9PXG700 5VYS420. License plate. City of Ontario stalking. 7KCZ117 is monitoring driving in impossible light, while the entity is maintaining a method of flashing light, which CMAX, a gang stalking company, provides. 9RNU766, 7207BL3, 72078L3. All right, driving in what is iridescent, impossible light. License 9KYL587, 8ZMM907. License 9LIK278, 8ZMM907, 9DGG419, 9GTV998. License plate 9LTK278. The entity is stalking with light at the intersection. The Paulion, the entity maintaining a dumpster truck at this same intersection, D Street and Lemon, with the dumpster truck, that's light activity. The entity maintaining gang stalking landscapers, light activity. 7XDL434. The entity maintaining light activity, CMEX. Street sweeping, simultaneously gang stalking under a fake sun that's over the same apartment building at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. License EH65H52 paper, mentally ill, impossible light dragging all over. They're stalkers. 9NVT184, 9NVU936. Driving in the impossible light is mentally ill behavior. Stalking under a fake sun is mentally ill behavior. Stalking as a population is mentally ill behavior. Stalking while you're being exposed as stalking, engaging more of it, is mentally ill behavior. 23656V2. And the entity is going to be subject to what is deportation. All right? The entity is doing so. CMAX is CMAX. They're a gang stalking street sweeper company. They're engaging in that P.O.C. with regard to the purposes light activity. All right, so they're engaging in that while demons are pacing on the roads and the highways, federal stalking under Title 18, where they're maintaining criminal surveillance as a population that is stalking by planes and helicopters, stalking by establishments, business establishments, and residences like Sarah's Regis Group, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. This is 320 North Euclid Avenue. The fake sun is here at sunset after 6 p.m. CEASELESS Regis Group is going to be prosecuted for all the terrorism I'm subject to while they share in that at this apartment building. And they're making money at the same time. That's a RICO case, and that's a criminal prosecution of not just CEASELESS Regis Group, but the state, the government, P.O.C. License plate 9NVT184. P.O.C. These are all sex offenders keeping my vagina under surveillance as an entity as well. Driving around into the parking garage is license 9NVT184, a female in the passenger seat of that car. Impossible light moving all across the roof inside of that parking garage and all manner of the site. That's not sunlight. Neither is this the sun that's still at the OVITT Family Community Library at 10 o'clock when it opens. And as you see on Sundays, 1 o'clock in the afternoon over that same entry when it opens. And as you see as I step out at 4 o'clock in the evening after I exit the OVITT Family Community Library, when it closes and that fake sun is still here, that's the entity that is driving into CEASELESS Regis Group parking garage with impossible light, mentally ill, and criminal conduct, both exposed and serving for what is the pattern of conduct that the government is engaging in. 9HMK392, this is P.O.C. It is currently 8:34 a.m.
Alrighty, what you will see is relevant to what you saw already yesterday evening at the same address, 215 East C Street, which is the City of Ontario. That is reference to a state facilitating venue. Facilitating venue is identifying a criminal defendant engaged in criminal surveillance as a state actor, which with regard to what is OVITT Family Community Library, while the specific environment remains here. And as I enter, taking a picture of what is the light source at 10:02 a.m., you're mindful of what you saw yesterday evening on October 27, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. from the vantage point of being inside of the library, sitting in the depths of that library and facing I'm looking at computer station number 1, which is where I'm sitting now, and you're looking at also the entity that is gang stalking sitting at the adjacent position to me, as in the same manner this is at 10:17 a.m. where the fake sun is over the entrance, and this is the same status, the same environment, and the same criminal status with regard to the maintenance of a supernatural environment. And this is how gang stalking is underway, and it is impossible that the sun would be over me in the way that it is over the entrance upon my entry, of this venue at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California at 10:02 a.m. And the gang stalker adjacent to me is in the same position with regard to presence under the fake sun that I'm capturing in alignment to my face as I'm sitting at the same computer that I am this morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. That duration of time, let's count together. Like we're fifth graders who also know what the sun does. 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 hours later, over 7 hours later, the fake sun is in the same position as I'm looking at it. As you could also see at 5:30 p.m., you'll see engineered light, because that's not possibly sunlight at any time of day, under any circumstances, that is manifesting on the carpet, reaching into the depths like a hand, like a claw, okay? Reaching into the depths where they're standing around the book stacks. Those are the mentally ill that are stalking with light. That's how it looks inside of a building. The entity also engages in what is flinging light around, just like I capture outside when they're in vehicles. They do so while they are looking around as though nothing is happening, studying books and maintaining conversations and being on their devices and staring at computers while they're all stalking. That's the Nephilim. The Nephilim are identified in silence. They don't have to say a word. The fake sun is speaking to what is a pregnant silence and automatic guilt for criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder. It is impossible that in the natural environment, the population that is sitting inside of the venue at 10:17 a.m. is under the same circumstances of the environment as I'm capturing yesterday at 5:30 p.m., but that's exactly what I'm capturing. You're looking at what is the fake sun. You could see it shining, amber orange, shining radiantly through the door, while I'm at a distance in the depths of the building. And as you look at the rest of the pictures, you'll see the fake sun, and I'm capturing it, by the way. It's laughable, but it's demonic. It's the picture of evil. It's a picture of mental illness. It's a picture of criminal surveillance committed in furtherance of murder. But you'll see the images of the engineer light that's on the floor at 5:27 and 13 seconds, 5:28 and 15 seconds. Then it's reaching farther, and at 5:28 and 24 seconds, you can see it touching the computer station number 4. And then at 5:29 and 12 seconds, you could see the engineer light on the floor reaching farther. It's like clawing. It's the personification of the stalker. Okay, and so you're looking at the stalker that's at computer station number 2. These are people that do not need to know each other, and they likely have no personal relationship, but they are all connected with regard to the government that's maintaining surveillance, and they are also the same population, the demon-possessed, the Nephilim. They are in the same exact environment, the fake sun, that is over a span of 7 hours, in alignment to me. It's in alignment to me while it's over my head upon my entry of this venue. You're sitting down and you're stalking. You are in alignment to me, stalking at 5:30 p.m. while I'm looking at that fake sun and engineer light that's covering the floor, reaching into the depths. A particularly desperate and scientifically impossible environment where the mentally ill sit around like it's not happening. They're gang stalking. Okay? The entity is going to be mentally diagnosed as opposed to having any sort of defense in court with regard to the strict liability basis for gang stalking, where a population is targeting an American citizen. Okay? The entity is going to be mentally assessed with regard to the malice inherent to that. They are not innocently in that environment when they're also making malicious assertions about things that didn't happen. You're also not engaged in what is innocent presence when you're targeting someone and making inexplicable allegations. Why is that? Why are you doing? The entity engages in what is always exposing itself. It's highly unintelligent. And all the tactics of bullying, all the tactics of targeting are fully exposing their purpose. And also, you don't have to say a word, even if they were intelligent enough to not act like in ways in which they don't recognize are showing that they're targeting, because they're more obsessed than they are intelligent. They don't have to say a word and you can prosecute. You can prosecute with their silence. Okay? The entity maintains ongoing noise. The entity maintains engineer light. The entity maintains things like a fake sun. And at the OVITT Family Community Library, you're looking at what is 7 hours, 10:17 over the entrance. Excuse me, I walked in at 10:17 is when I'm capturing a gang stalker sitting next to me in close proximity where the demons are engaged in what is an ongoing battery as the desks are jerking, and it's sensational activity, which is supernatural. It's as supernatural as the fake sun for 7 hours over one building. It's as supernatural as the engineer light that you see moving across the walls and across the streets and moving across surfaces while they are in vehicles. It is the demonic that's happening right in front of your face. This is what the ordinary target individual is subject to, and it is psychologically harmful to them. It's also harassing, and it's a battery, okay? It's an unlawful touching, and they're doing so with regard to hostility. They're doing so with regard to what I'm doing. The demons like to engage in some passive-aggressive means of battering my person while I'm publishing evidence about them. They're not getting away with anything. I'm prosecuting. This is informing legislation. They're going to be exposed as the sex offenders, the gang stalkers that they are, the serial killers that they are. And it's happening in a so-called family community library, okay, where all of the employees are automatically being documented. This criminal system is serving what is a federal prosecution. It's automatically serving it. All the records, all the information, it's going to be produced. You will be prosecuted. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C, and that's what I want you to be mindful of. So the fake sun is over the entrance at 10:02 a.m. upon my entry today, and you're going to look at, I took a screenshot of it so you can see it conveniently. You'll see the fake sun aimed in perfect. Remember, it's not aimed out through in alignment with what is the Ontario Town Square wall, where I'm seated at the Ontario Town Square. For it to be in alignment with where I'm at is speaking to targeting. It's targeting because it's 7 hours later after it's over the entrance. It's targeting because that means that it never even went to LA County. It's not anywhere in LA where you would see it. The sun is not an ubiquitous object where everyone's seeing the same sun in the same manner at the same time for the duration of the day, meaning the sun is not engaged in an orbit from east to west anywhere. And it's not from the east side of one building to the west side of one building. There's a whole galaxy. There's a whole rest of the country. And what's over Ave Maria Law School in Naples, Florida is not over OVITT Family Community Library at the same time. We're not looking at that at the same time. Okay, the entity is maintaining a light source, and it is obvious, and it's also scientific with regard to what is not possible and with regard to what I'm documenting, which is conclusive evidence prosecuting gang stalkers. All right, so this is relevant to that P.O.C, and it's a population that's sharing and targeting through what is a corrupt business practice. This is the federal RICO case that's going to incorporate science. This is the criminal conspiracy to commit murder that's going to incorporate science. It's the sex offense committed by an entity that's going to incorporate science. With regard to that pattern of conduct, it is currently 10:31 a.m. where the fake sun, is present till after 5:30, because that's what I captured yesterday, where the gang stalker at computer station number 2 is in the same position as the gang stalker at 10:17 a.m. And that is a scientific impossibility, but it is the pattern of conduct. P.O.C. Alrighty, this is again another publicly announced status regarding the unlawful threat posed by corrupt officials such as Jason Isaac Fields. This is someone who represents an unlawful threat by the government itself. That is, the government will be prosecuted in addition to Jason Isaac Fields being prosecuted for the unlawful threat posed to my life, safety, and well-being. Having already committed theft of my property and doing so by gang stalking me, by facilitating gang stalking by the state, by relying on the criminal acts committed against me, sharing in those criminal acts committed against me, and also as a mentally ill psychopath in the background practicing witchcraft, seeking to spiritually attack me in order to take my life, and then maintain a narrative in the physical as a corrupt official stating something defamatory regarding a narrative that serves to establish that I would be responsible for my own self-harm, for my own early demise. This is the malice of predators, of terrorists like Jason Isaac Fields, who pose a threat to himself, to women, to the vulnerable population, and to the public. This is somebody that is permanently done with law enforcement, but it is also one who poses a threat. Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer engaged in what are federal offenses. They did it while I documented it. They did it while keeping my evidence under surveillance, and they did it with regard to what is going to be a federal prosecution for that. It's an impermissible threat. And it is the same legal analysis with regard to Jason Isaac Fields, keeping me under surveillance and keeping the evidence under surveillance, engaging in what is seeking to profit from and benefit from what is the entity that I am documenting still targeting. And he has been engaged in targeting for the totality of my ongoing public investigation, engaging in what is targeting me and then maliciously referring to it, that criminal conduct, as an investigation, is the federal prosecution of corrupt officials that are terrorists. All right, upon facts of gang stalking, Jason Isaac Fields is not only incompetent, he's not only corrupt, he not only has unclean hands, he is a domestic terrorist. And that is the basis of federal prison, okay? There is no defense, and any claim of accidentally targeting someone is not only implausible, it is untenable. It is also a misrepresentation of fact. You are not accidentally maintaining a fraudulent marriage to me. You are not accidentally profiting from property that you did not create, my intellectual property. You're not accidentally lying on my character. This is not someone that even benefits from stating that we never met and never had a conversation, unlike the demon-possessed gang stalkers who are clearly targeting and we've never had a conversation. Like, you're gang stalking me from across the street and I could surround you with that evidence and prosecute you at a distance. Jason Isaac Fields has shared telephone communications. This is years ago. He's totally irrelevant to my life now. I'm prosecuting him as a co-conspirator of murder, a sex partner and a fellow cult member of Tracy Banks and the entity. But this is no friend of mine. He is a stranger who I never really knew. He's been engaged in targeting, okay? He's a hitman, and he's engaged in what is seeking to profit from my demise. This is someone who is posing an unlawful threat that the government is posing, in the same way that the entity is doing so while the Ontario police are stalking me and chasing me down in helicopters, and doing so with that level of impunity. Jason Fields is going to prison for it. He's not accidentally sharing in that criminal conspiracy. Neither is he unilaterally withdrawing himself from that ongoing pattern of conduct that I am remaining subject to, and that he is engaging in at the outset. He's not accidentally having sex with Tracy Banks over and over and over and over and over again. He's not accidentally conspiring my demise with her over and over and over again. And there's no lie that she's telling where he remains some sort of ignorant, innocent factor. This is somebody that also wants to be viewed as a competent officer at the federal level. You cannot hold on to both at the same time. He's going to prison, okay? This is malicious, and it's nothing less than malicious. This is somebody that wants to lessen the load as much as he can, but it's not avoiding federal prison. I want to make sure that that is clear. You are looking at me that represents the exception. Jason Isaac Fields is typically engaging in targeting American citizens who are dead. That is silent and cannot testify to his targeting them in order to steal from them, steal their identity, permit others to target them, and take their life. Okay, and control the narrative after the fact. He doesn't have that benefit. He's going to federal prison, and he poses a threat to my life, and the government poses a threat to my life, and that is a threat that the entity will be civilly and criminally prosecuted for while you are keeping my evidence under surveillance. You're engaging in voyeurism as a mentally ill entity that is no hero, being forced to come out of the shadows and give me justice that I am entitled to, and it includes putting predators like Fields in prison. Tracy Banks is not guilty alone. Tracy Banks is not targeting alone. Tracy Banks couldn't do it without the incompetence and corruption of nymphomaniacs and psychopaths like Jason Isaac Fields. He is going to federal prison for every dollar that he stole, still living in my real property and claiming that we have any relationship. I've never had a romantic relationship with him, let alone anything more than a telephone relationship, while he's been intricate and sexually deeply involved with Tracy Banks, however, in keeping that information to himself. He didn't accidentally do that either. Okay? He never gave any information about, well, you need to be aware that, you might be, people are watching on, they don't have the best intentions for you. He never was anything other than targeting with the state. Ever. And in the same way that I'm speaking the unadulterated truth about every other actor, it's the same with Jason Isaac Fields. There is no personal vendetta here. This is professional. This is with regard to justice, because ordinary target individuals have a right to not be targeted by those that cannot control their genitalia and then claim that it's a witch's fault because you engaged in criminal conduct and abusing your position in the federal law. That's literally what you're relying on. You're going to federal prison. And you're subject to mental examinations in the same way that everybody gang stalking on the Ontario Police Department and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department are. You're no different. In fact, it is more egregious because the entity is targeting one whom he knows very well is none of the things that he has depicted my character as, and did so with a level of bravado with his sex partner, Tracy Banks, who thought she was just going to step in my shoes, much younger shoes, much more capable shoes that she cannot fit. And it doesn't matter how many people or how many officials you have sex with, it's not going to overwhelm facts. And demons that are always relying on alternative facts, alternative realities, they're all being given a lesson uniformly. You are not above the law, and neither is Fields, and I want to make sure that that is clear. The entity is engaging in this, and it's an intentional threat to my life. This predator, this voyeurist coming into my presence, Fields, it's an unlawful threat to my life and safety, and this is relevant to his federal prosecution. This is P.O.C.
Stalking in the bathroom with the sex offender that enters in to engage in what is sex crime, surveillance in a private space. All these demons in the OVITT Family Community Library parking lot. License plate 8SHP292, sex offender. And Mike LORENZ is monitoring my vagina, going into bathrooms, engaging in surveillance with these demons. BQB 3618, Washington, 7NOF 512. They're in the parking lot. They're inside of the Sarah's Regis parking garage, keeping a woman under surveillance in a bathroom. Sex offenders, 6JVH338. And it is currently, by the way, hold on, let me get this license plate. 9KKT 565, 8UME 880. License plates. These are cockroaches. They were stalking under the fake sun all day long. Just like I stated, the demon sitting at computer number 2 in the same circumstance with regard to a fake sun in alignment to me at 5 p.m. License 7SIY097. The sex offender you see in the bathroom is monitoring in a bathroom, stalking in a bathroom on behalf of all the sex offenders that are in a parking lot sharing in criminal surveillance of a woman in a private space, which is, again, sex crimes committed in furtherance of murder. Okay? They're engaging in that together while they're also engaging in what is a molestation. That's with engineer light while they're stalking in the path. This is what the Ontario International Airport
and Mike Lorenz, the Ontario Police Department, that entire police department, is engaging in together. Okay, so the sex offenders that you're seeing their images, you're seeing the labels above their head with regard to being mentally ill because they're stalking with light, because they're stalking with noise, because they're stalking in the library, because they're a stalker that wants to be as close to me as possible. They're engaging in that pattern of conduct while they are also going into bathrooms stalking. Okay, license plate 9EZK933. P.O.C. Hold on, there's one more license plate I need to get. I think. I don't know if I got this one. 8XYU909. And it is currently 8:37 p.m. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 vehicles that are outside, all of them together, and that's just right here. Going into the bathroom is a sex offense that's committed by the entire city. The entity that's on video stalking for 6+ minutes by helicopter, walking their dogs, running in the field with their parents, all of those and more. The entire city, the state, is keeping me under surveillance inside of a bathroom. That is the prosecution of a domestic terrorist going by the disguise of calling himself a police chief. He is not. He is a sex offender. He is a stalker that literally engages in what is stalking into bathrooms. Those are the demons that are sitting around Mickey, Abigail, Alexander, John. These demons are engaging in surveillance inside of the bathroom. And so is Mike Lorenz, and so is the entity that's engaging in what is stalking as an agency. Flying around the OVITT Family Community Library is putting those sex offenders in prison for kidnapping with that same agency while they're stalking in the bathroom with that same agency. This is P.O.C. So let me give you the evidence that's putting these demons in prison. This is, again, the prosecution of Mike Lorenz sharing, okay? Because this is what they're doing in the bathroom. They go in the bathroom stalking in engineer light, stalking with the entity that's stalking by helicopter. This is federal prison, by the way. 6BLZ332. Keeping my vagina under surveillance. The female that's inside of the bathroom is in engineer light, stalking within the path with psychopaths who are pacing. 8XYU909. Federal prison. Psychopath. Stalking under a fake sun that was here at 10 o'clock and still here at 5 p.m. while the demons, Mickey, are walking inside of the depths of that library on engineer light, monitoring. P.O.C. Prosecution for domestic terrorists. This is committed in furtherance of murder. This is the entity that's keeping my vagina under surveillance. This is the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department. This is mental illness, and it's under the fake moon. This is where the fake sun was at 10 o'clock in the morning. That agency is not a law enforcement agency. That is engaging in what is criminal surveillance, and they're violent sex offenders, and they facilitate violence amongst the public. Mental illness that is pervasive. That's what that is. Stalking with light. 8CCT719. Sarah's Regis Group keeping my vagina under surveillance. I'm going to prosecute them. This parking lot full of license plates I just read right now, I'm going to prosecute them. The security guard Securitas, the demons that are gang stalking inside, they're sharing in a sex offense together. OVITT Family Community Library is a sex offender. That's P.O.C. All right? This is P.O.C. Molesting. This is the mental illness. I want to be clear. They're going to prison. 7KWT275 and covering up a European license plate. That's P.O.C. Walking out of the library, gang stalking and doing so. Sitting with a communication device, monitoring all day long, walking in and out in engineer light, monitoring a woman's genitalia, exhibiting severe mental illness. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C. on an ongoing basis, and you'll see it on the social media. You'll see it on YouTube. Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams are going to be federally prosecuted as domestic terrorists, conspiring murder, which that whole agency shares that pattern of conduct, stalking in the specific environment. This is not a conversation that they're sharing, and they're stalking in the paths with multiple shadows. This is, again, the entity that's engaging in that while they're sharing in what is criminal presence in the path. This is P.O.C. All right, that sex offender, she's uploaded, I uploaded to the Google Drive. She's stalking in the bathroom with that agency. That is what I stated. Sex crimes, monitoring, surveillance of genitalia, and other sex crimes, which includes molestation, stalking inside of a library on behalf of that agency. They're going to prison. They engaged in kidnapping right here. P.O.C.
All right, gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. That's flying over the top of my head as I'm documenting the gang stalkers that are keeping me under surveillance, keeping my vagina under surveillance in the bathroom. It does include third-party Starla. Her license plate is 9 Sam Edward Jack 254. She's engaging in a molestation. The entity turns off all the lights in the parking lot. I took a picture of that. That's light activity while all the demons of the OVITT Family Community Library walk out, where that demon is aiming light for those demons to come out as a group, stalking in the path. That's pacing. They're doing it in the engineered light. All of this is context. They're doing it under the fake moon. They're doing it where the Ontario Police Department is not coincidentally flying over the top of my head, over in the back parking lot, after flying over in circles while I'm at the front entry, after I'm documenting, monitoring, stalking in a bathroom, and I document everybody in that parking lot. The entity's engaging in what is gang stalking, furtherance of murder, and also keeping the federal prosecutor under surveillance. And these are the psychopaths that lose self-control and provide ongoing further evidence that they committed kidnapping with Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. They committed kidnapping with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They committed kidnapping with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court while they engaged in seeking to obstruct justice. But however, kidnapping and targeting in the way in which they're doing so does not help Arrowhead. They engaged in kidnapping with that agency, and then they just plaster labels on you while they're targeting you as an entity. They're going to prison, okay? And so are the gang stalkers at the OVITT Family Community Library, and so are the ones that are engaging in what is seeking to profit from my demise. That's Tracy Banks, that's Eric Spencer, that's Tommy Allen Banks, that's Jason Isaac Fields, that are engaging in what is targeting me while the population, including at the OVITT Family Community Library, are maintaining surveillance as the entity. The entity is just coming in and maintaining ongoing musical chairs, stalking me in the path, stalking under the fake sun, stalking under the fake moon, stalking in the engineered light, stalking in the bathroom, flying, terrorizing, flying over the top of my head wherever I'm at, including in the parking lot where the demons are engaged in what is gang stalking, and do so because they know they're being documented. Okay, and that knowledge is also proven by targeting by the Ontario International Airport in the specific environment where multiple shadows are spread out like a deck of cards in the parking lot, upright in the shadows on the dumpster. That's on the video. Mike Lorenz is going to prison. I'm gonna let you know how this ends. He's going to prison, and so is the entity that's gang stalking as they're terrorist leaders that are masquerading as police chiefs. This is the corrupt executive branch that I have exposed. And federal officials that are corrupt, like Jason Fields, are going to federal prison. Gang stalking fake family members that conspire your death with the government are going to prison, like Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer and Tommy Allen Banks. The entities engaged in this P.O.C. kidnappers of the OVITT Family Community Library represent the people of the state that are going to prison, that are targeting you in furtherance of murder with that government. That provides evidence against every single last one of them, including every kidnapping facility where the entity is clearly targeting, like the agency, the Ontario Police Department. That's P.O.C. There is absolutely no evidence that's supporting mental illness. In fact, the mental illness is shown by the demons who are engaging in their pattern of conduct. The stalking with light conduct, when you're seeing a demon stalking in the middle of the night with multiple shadows surrounding you, and those demons are engaging in a pattern of inexplicable light that surrounds while they're all around you, and they want to be depicted as being normal. That's speaking to what is the psychopathic conduct. That's a sex offender that's also stalking you in places like in bathroom stalls. That's a psychopath that's engaging in what is stalking you in things such as large commercial planes and helicopters. That's what the city of Ontario, the state of California, has maintained while projecting what they know very well is mental illness suffered by them. All right, but the entity is going to be met with mental examinations and federal prison. Securitas is the demon you see on the golf cart, stalking in the path. All right, just like the African-American with the mop on her head, she's stalking with light in the morning. That's what Securitas is doing, gang stalking, stalking with light in the parking lot where the entity turned off all the lights, while those demons, including Starla, get in their vehicles to commit what is a sexual assault and battery. That's to have more impact while they all turn on their vehicles and pace around in the parking lot. Gang stalking with the Ontario police that just flew over the top of my head, gang stalking in the specific environment. That's giving you context that Securitas, that you already know, is engaged in targeting, not security, just like Allied Universal. P.O.C. You can hear that audible activity. They're doing it in the environment where I already showed you multiple shadows. Securitas is gang stalking in furtherance of murder with the city of Ontario. It is a ceaseless pattern of conduct. Sex offenders just walked out pacing in engineer light. They call themselves employees of the OVITT Family Community Library. That is a deceptive misnomer. Abigail and Alexander and Starla are engaged in what is stalking and doing so as a population in the bathroom, obsessively stalking me and doing so in furtherance of murder, and also are, again, obsessed. These are the demon possessed that are mentally ill, and they sought to conceal their obsession with me, the targeted individual, because this could be you as well. They seek to conceal their obsession with you. They're demons. They're obsessed with you. They're obsessed with your spirit while they are obsessively stalking you in furtherance of trying to murder you at the same time. It is a real life horror flick, and it is mental illness, pervasive mental illness. that is speaking to what is entirely unfit to be in the medical profession, the legal profession, the law enforcement, to have access to the public in the way in which the demons of the OVITT Family Community Library are. The entity is stalking me by commercial airline plane, helicopter, under the fake moon, with the people of the state that are molesting in the engineer light. This is all inside of the parking lot at 215 E.C. Street, where I showed you the fake sun at what is 10:02 in the morning, and I showed you the fake sun at 5:30 in alignment to me. This evening, where Mickey is gang stalking. Mickey is engaged in what is keeping my vagina under surveillance. Mickey's also engaged in what is kidnapping and also criminally defaming my character while she's engaged in the program of psychological torture, which Mickey and the entity only commits when they seek to falsely depict your character before they murder you. Okay? Mickey's going to prison for that. Mickey is not aided by the terrorist organization Ontario Police, because Mickey's going to be prosecuted with the evidence of me being targeted in her presence at her place of work, regardless of what day she got off, what time she gets off of work. Every time that Mickey's at work, and I'm subject to the pattern of conduct which she's engaged in with the demons who come into the library. It's not helpful when they're sitting around an engineer light looking like nothing's happening. That's the mentally ill population stalking with the police department flying over my head, stalking me upon my entry and exit of that venue, doing so under the fake sun that's rising and setting at the library where Mickey works, where Starla's molesting my person, where the people of the state are surrounding with light while the demons fly over the top of my head in helicopters. She's going to prison. Okay? They committed kidnapping with that agency on June 16, 2022. It's already published on my website. The entity is now, again, like psychopaths do under the fake sun in the morning when I'm walking to this venue before 8 o'clock. They're pacing on what is Lemon Avenue at D Street, pacing in and out of the parking garage where the demons are gang stalking at the Tesla charger station. They're gang stalking as residents, engaging in the pattern of conduct by place of residence at the Saris Regis Group, 320 North Euclid Avenue, downtown Ontario luxury apartments, where also the fake sun rising and setting. The Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police gang stalking with that venue with the people of the state. This is a comprehensive prosecution of all of the state, but that's again just a sample of the legal analysis to prosecute the entire entity. That's the entity that's engaging in that. And I want to be clear, Mickey and Starla and Alexander are not engaged in any sort of retaliation that is serving their purposes when they want to have when they don't have a defense. But it certainly is not it's helpful to you in federal court where you're going to be when you would like to separate yourself from the gang stalking underway in the city of Ontario with regard to the conspiracy to murder me and falsely depict my character in doing so, because you're going to prison for engaging in that system where American citizens have a right to not have their life under threat by the government who acts with a population that is absurdly mentally ill. Stalking with light and stalking under things like a fake sun, where every last one of those employees are surrounded with that evidence. It is currently 9:19 p.m. This is the entity that is indeed engaged in gang stalking, and I took a picture also of those demons that walk out in a group in engineer light, monitoring me in doing so, monitoring while the demons flew over my head in helicopter, monitoring while the Ontario International Airport flew over the library, and then flew over Saris Regis Group downtown Ontario luxury apartments, while demons are maintaining surveillance all around me, including in this parking lot, to commit sexual assault and battery, which I documented, and then the demons of the Ontario Police keeping me under surveillance through that sexual violence and through that demented pattern of conduct, engaging what is stalking in helicopter, which again I captured on video. That is not helping the demons that are going to prison. I want to be clear. Lisa Rogan, engaging what is criminal defamation in conformity to this pattern of conduct. Targeting is not how you are assessing mental illness. Targeting does not equal mental illness, and targeting will never be legally relevant in the federal court where an American citizen is being criminally defamed by that government that's simultaneously engaging what is psychological torture and gang stalking while wanting to assert that an American citizen is mentally ill, and that's why you put them in the ward. That's why you put them in jail. That's why you have a secret conservatorship. That's why you have a whole manner of what are fake death certificates and insurance policies. Obviously, I'm being facetious because none of that is going to be supported at all under any circumstances. The entity is engaged in and is caught with its pants down, if you will. They're going to prison for kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department. This is how the pattern of conduct starts from the beginning to the end. This is P.O.C. All right, and the entity is engaging in that P.O.C. with sex offenders that are sharing in that pattern of conduct and engaging in that right now while driving off. This sex offender that is gang stalking at the venue, let me read their license plate again. The entity turns the parking lot lights on and off while Uncle Edward 720 drives off in the Versa, the Nissan Versa, gang stalking me in doing so, even while they're listening to the fact that they're going to prison. That's the mental illness. And mental illness is shared by Lisa Rogan. Mental illness is shared, you need to know, by Thomas Garza. Mental illness is shared by, under no circumstances, different or lesser. It is even more, because these are demons that are mentally ill, psychopaths that have been incentivized and encouraged, meaning they've been engaged in targeting, murdering, kidnapping, stealing from, defaming American citizens for decades, and they've gotten away with it. So these are psychopaths that are more maniacal, more delusional. You're not getting away with it, and you're going to prison, and you're still stalking me. And you're doing it on the internet in front of the whole world, and including the feds. The feds don't have a choice. You're going to prison. Okay? It is currently 9:21 p.m. This is P.O.C. That's the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. The entity turning the lights on and off in the parking lot. Let me identify that for you. That's the city of Ontario. This is P. All right, Securitas is gang stalking in the golf cart, and the following license plates are what I documented before the entity flies over the top of my head. That's a threat to your life, your safety, your well-being, and a threat to your liberty, as I have shown the pattern of conduct by corrupt terrorist organizations masquerading as law enforcement agencies in this country are committed to kidnapping and furtherance of murder. That's a threat to your liberty, okay? While they are stalking you, they are doing so in furtherance of a conspiracy to murder you, which getting you in their clutches is accomplished either by kidnapping you or just killing you on the street before even kidnapping you into a facility. It is nonetheless a threat to your life. It is a conspiracy to commit murder while police are engaged in what is gang stalking, okay? License plate 9EZK933, 9KID 610, 7HYF 466, 8DFU 546, 4EBJ 348, I believe. I can't really see that one. That's an old Honda, an old Honda Accord. Gray, white. I've documented it before. License 7UUE720 just drove out now, where the city of Ontario is simultaneously turning the parking lot lights, on and off in sync with that demon crossing path with me. That's the government acting with the people of the state. Okay? That's the pattern of conduct. It is not a coincidence. It's demonic, but it's also speaking to the criminal conspiracy that is already established. License 5NTH155, still engaging in surveillance in the parking lot as of 9:24 p.m. License 9SEJ254, that is Starla. Starla and her husband, baby daddy, children's father, and children are gang stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library as well. Very, very demented, very peculiar, and it's also threatening while the demon-possessed gang stalk you as a family. She is an employee at the venue. She's engaging in targeting with the Ontario Police. That is the basis of federal prison. Just want to be clear on that. And this is the video that is captured at what is 9:07 p.m. following documentation of the demons that are inside of the library, knowing that they've been documented, exceedingly hostile. Their co-defendant flies over my head, threatening me, retaliating, threatening my life, and doing so while I document them. And this is the federal offense that is documented, which is going against all of that entity.
Okay, this is license
9EZK933. She's stalking. That's mental illness, and she's stalking with the Ontario Police Department, flying over my head at the back parking lot, okay? She gets into position, knowing that they were already documented, not inside of the car. Doing so, their knowledge is proven through the 1, 2, 3 shadows. That's the Ontario Police that's monitoring my vagina while they're stalking in the bathroom. And this is, again, the license plates 9EZK933. They're gang stalking with Abigail, who's inside. Abigail's going to prison. They're gang stalking with Alexander, who's sitting at the circulation desk. He's going to federal prison. Remember, the entity D. Ramos and what is also Chris that engaged in criminal summoning, that's the agency. Mike Lorenz is being prosecuted for the pattern of conduct that agency shares with the people of the state who are stalking. This is aiming light. This is mental illness. This is an entity. She's just stopped on the side of the road. And the entity is engaging what is coming out. The gang stalkers of OVITT coming out. This is stalking in the path of light while the entity flies over the top of my head. And I have a shadow appearing back here in the shade. They're stalking with light in the path. This is the demon-possessed conduct of the demons that are engaging in monitoring with Mike Lorenz, with that agency, and then go into the bathrooms, engaging in that. That's what they committed when I walk outside, stalking by helicopter, doing so while the fake sun's over the entrance and the fake moon at nightfall. Okay? That's P.O.C. That is, again, license plate 9EZK933, co-conspirator to murder. And so is the entire state of California that are demon-possessed. This is impossible light activity. All right? And the entity is inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. This is impunity. Mike Lorenz is being prosecuted. That agency is being
disbanded, they're going to prison for repeatedly kidnapping with this population sharing in that pattern of conduct. That's the pattern of conduct, and I read all their license plates, meaning I took pictures of them. And the entity is targeting me in the parking lot where I'm documenting them, and demons that are engaging in surveillance with the state are aware of it. P.O.C, it is currently 9:08 p.m. That psychopath is maintaining ongoing surveillance while the podcast is being processed too. They're working with the gang stalkers Ontario Police Department and the Ontario International Airport, hovering over the Saris Regis group, flying over this parking lot while they're engaging what is that P.O.C together. P.O.C.